Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Super Subs Podcast. Your host Harish and Narv. We've had an array of some great entertaining games that we're going to touch on today. Um, the first round of 16 knockout stage in the Champions League has concluded as well. As we're recording, we just finished up uh, watching the Real Atletico game. Amazing thriller. And then we'll cover on some weekend games that we wanted to touch on, and then just highlight some games for this coming weekend. But as y'all know, we're gonna start with. Oh, and before we start with our usual super subs, just wanted to shout out our Instagram page. Um, we're working on. We've been getting better creating some videos and stuff, some shorter clips from our long form episodes. So we posted on Instagram, and we're also each week going to post on there um, who our super sub of the week is. And so go give that account a follow. It's super sub number two underscore podcast. And we'll put the link in like the Spotify description. But give that a follow. Greatly appreciate it. But with that, Narv, who was your super sub of the week?
My super sub for this week will be from the weekend game. And it will be a small win that we see from United, but the debut of Aiden Heaven, the 18-year-old, coming in for an injured Lenny Euro. I thought he had a really good game. 18-year-old former Arsenal man. He did not look out of place. And he played pretty well. He's a midfielder by trade, converted into a center back. So with now Lenny Euro, I'm not sure the extent of his injury. I haven't really seen reports, but especially with Martinez out, um, and with Amarin kind of playing the youngsters at Sporting, I feel like Aiden Heaven should be given an opportunity, especially because he's really good at playing out the back, as a defender.
Nice. Pretty good shout. That's someone I definitely wanted to highlight when we uh, get to the United game. Um, but my super sub of the week is actually also a defender from the weekend. It was Mickey Van de Ven. Um, he finally returned for Tottenham Hotspur over the weekend, and they were losing to Bournemouth 2-0. And both, I guess, guys that we selected this week as super subs is, highlights how you don't necessarily have to be on the score sheet to be considered a super sub, as long as you can make an impact on the game. And I think that's exactly what Van de Ven did. You could see how important he is in the way that Ange wants to play. And when he came in, you could see Spurs literally the shift uh, in their lineup, how everyone kind of shifted up the field 10, 15 yards because they could rely on kind of his pace. So, and that helped them ultimately push for a goal. They got a couple goals. The first one was kind of lucky, but uh, yeah, he was my super sub for the week.
Good
Just changing
shout.
the game.
Shout out defenders.
Yep. Um, with that, we'll move on to the Nottingham City game. And as you said, shout out defenders. I think this was another game where uh, the whole back line for Nottingham, the whole team for Nottingham, honestly played really well. But defenders again uh, were pretty class against City. Didn't let them create any chances.
I think the
Um,
only defender that might have had slight trouble that time was Ala
yeah,
against Doku.
that's back-to-back games for him that he's kind of had sus sus games. Um,
Yeah. But then again, I think that speaks a little bit to Doku. I think um should be starting for City. I feel like
mhm.
he always gives defenders trouble, something different.
Yeah, I thought this game, Nottingham just defended so well. Um, and it really seemed like it was just going to go to a 0-0 draw. Um, yeah, I think City had what, like 20 shots, but it didn't look anything dangerous. I'm sorry, 14 shots. But none really looked too dangerous. But like you said, Doku was like the only guy that looked like he might be creating something. Um,
It's kind of
Foden and
a
Haaland were pretty quiet.
Yeah, Holland had I think he had like really just one big chance. I mean it's kind of a hard technique, but I mean for his caliber, one that you thought he could put away, but I thought the game was a little boring.
Hmm.
Very defensive from Forest, and then from City's point of view, it's just kind of a repeat of what we've seen this season, just lacking that creativity.
Yeah. But I mean, credit to Nottingham because they played it pretty well, where they were just going to sit back, and they've kind of done this all year impressively, where they just kind of sit back and take their chances pretty smartly on the counter, especially against these top teams.
Hmm.
And, they've a lot of these players have bought into the system pretty well, where it's not just the defenders um, committed to defending, but also like Hudson-Odoi, Ilonga, these guys who naturally aren't putting in that shift that have like bought into the system.
Yeah, it's definitely a collective performance each time for Forest. Um, and like they're pretty good on the transition. I mean, that's exactly what their goal came from, just sitting back defending and then causing a turnover and a quick. I mean, it was a nice pass by Gibbs White, but it was just such a quick transition. Ederson could have done better, but it
Hmm.
was kind of close range. Vardiol again, kind of getting schooled there defending wise.
Yeah, he's somewhat of a liability. Um,
Great going forward for a defender, but actually defending wise can be a liability.
which I feel bad though because he was also naturally like a center back too for so long.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, as this game was going on, and like you said, it was from a neutral standpoint, it was kind of boring. Um, and headed towards that 0-0 score line. Um, but did you see like Gerard Piqué what he's said about like a potential rule change?
Mm-mm.
Um, so he's proposed a rule change being if a game ends up being 0-0, that both teams, instead of both teams getting a point for a tie, both teams should get 0 points and not get any points because I guess just adds to the entertainment factor when there are goals and teams actually try to score versus teams sitting back and a game playing out like it did.
Who the hell does PK think he is?
Do you like that rule?
No.
No.
PK, get your cheating ass out of here.
I kind of see what he's trying to say, but it's just part of it's a strategy, that some teams put, and it worked out for Nottingham in this case.
Yeah, I feel like some teams are just meant to, like, their DNA is just being defensively solid, playing off counters.
Yeah, and they're gonna a lot of times get these 0-0 draws, and then occasionally get sneak in some goals in a dub. Uh, but his league also is like one of those where he thinks the game has there's ways to improve the excitement factor of the game. And so I don't know if you followed like his league at all.
No,
Um,
not really.
but yeah, there's like a bunch of rules kind of like where Uh, Penalty takers are chosen by the other opponent's team. Um, there's like if you do a couple fouls or something, like you play down a man for a certain period of time and then you bring him
Oh, like
in.
hockey kind of.
Yeah. There's like other wild cards and stuff that you can play randomly during the game, kind of like in FIFA.
I do like the choosing the penalty taker.
Yeah. I've seen some ideas floated where like the penalty taker should always be the player that got fouled or like drew the penalty.
Ooh, I like that one too.
But yeah, I don't think teams should get penalized for seeing like a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, I don't think so, not at all. I don't know, like, yeah, it will make a difference, like in a really close title race, I guess, but like a 1 versus 0 point. Um, because then a team that loses, what, you get like negative point? That's what he's trying to propose or something.
No, if you lose, you also get zero. But if you tie, not necessarily a 2-2 tie or something, but if it's a 0-0 tie,
Hmm.
then both teams get zero. Because his argument's like, well, both teams could have just not showed up. And
Yeah, kind of silly PK.
yeah, I kind of see what he's trying to say, but I don't think you need like an extra element of excitement in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, one of his other rules, which is really goofy to watch, is like, on a kickoff, it's usually like the team that starts the half or whatever, or if it's the team that just got scored on, just do a kickoff. You
Hmm.
can't enter like the circle. In his league, both teams start behind their own goal, and then when the ref blows the whistle, you charge at the ball, kind of like a dodgeball.
Oh, like Rocket League too. Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't like that either, though.
Yeah, the league is pretty entertaining, but it's also like I couldn't watch that. Like, it's not the same
Just
fun.
feels a little Americanized, like
Yeah,
for the
and
entertainment.
childish. Kind of
Yeah.
like reminds me of arena football of NFL.
Ugh. Yeah, that sounds nasty.
But let's move on to um,
And this game, although it's boring, like just for listeners, Harish and I, we usually have we take notes during all the games, but we kind of come up highlighting the big games that we want to cover in detail. And just I think Forest we've kind of skipped over at times, but I feel like with them being top four team, definitely should kind of give them their flowers and respect and kind of dive into their games as well.
yeah, it's impressive like what they've been able to do this year, considering they just were over relegation last year. Um,
Hmm.
they finished 6 points above Luton Town
Hmm.
last year, but then for them to go from 38 points last year in the entire season to already having 51 is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nottingham, they look pretty comfortable so far getting the top four or top five, I guess, for Champions League next year. Um, Sitting in third, but I mean the table is still fairly tight when you go from second all the way down to I would say even the top 10, Fulham has 42 points.
I think that top six is definitely tight. Three to
Yeah.
six, definitely tight.
Yeah, even, I mean, Bournemouth, 44 points. They're sitting a game back from fifth place. So it's a tight battle for Champions League next year. Um, it's important for teams financially and also just, I mean, Champions League is the biggest stage in the world football.
Hmm.
But let's move on to Saturday. There were some other games that were fairly entertaining, like the Liverpool game. They actually went down pretty early on to Southampton, but they came back to win. But I think we should probably touch on something from that game when we talk about the Champions League later. But let's move on to Spurs versus Bournemouth. Bournemouth were winning 2-0.
Oh, you want to move on to Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spurs versus Bournemouth. Bournemouth were up 2-0, and they looked pretty comfortable. They probably should have capitalized, scoring some more goals, but um, Spurs came back to end up tying the game 2-2. What were your some of your game takeaways?
I thought Spurs got very lucky to pull out a draw, and Bournemouth, um, they'll be kicking themselves in the foot for blowing this game away. It was 2-2, but at the end of the day, honestly, it could have been like four, four or five, two to Bournemouth. Um, I think probably like 2 minutes into the game, um, Romero, he had like back-to-back four giveaways, and it was just poor finishing, from Bournemouth standards. Could have been up 2-0 within like the first 10 minutes from those giveaways. Um, Even throughout and the entire first half is it was all Bournemouth, really up until Sarr's goal. Um, I thought Bournemouth were really dominant. After Sarr got that goal, Spurs kind of got momentum. Uh, Romero and Van de Ven, as you mentioned, as your super sub, were back this game. I thought Romero had a bit of a horror show. Looked super
Hmm.
rusty. Uh, but yeah, I don't think Tottenham deserved a draw, but it's a game. That keeps Ange into the job once a little bit longer.
Definitely that Bournemouth should have impressive how fit Bournemouth are as a team under Areola. Um, like you said, the way they're able to get turnovers off of teams, um, and they were able to press and transition so quickly. Not just this game, but they've done it all season, kind of. They win the ball in such dangerous areas. But like you said, they need to really, like Ariola's done a great job with that, setting up the team, but now it's that final in front of goal, just being ruthless, finishing your chances. Because honestly, Bournemouth are looking like a top three team. Uh, but there's been a lot of games this year where they've wasted chances. I mean, going back to Liverpool when they lost 2-0, that game, they probably should have gotten a point out of that. Um, Brighton 2 weeks ago, they definitely should have won that game. Um, and then I know last week was FA Cup, but they beat Wolves in penalties, but they had 31 shots and expected goals against Wolves was three, and they only put one past Wolves. Um, and then, of course, Spurs this past weekend um, just wasted chances. So, yeah, I think that's been kind of the uh, kind of theme for Bournemouth, but still, it's you can see that they're improving. And then, yeah, shout out to Van de Ven, how much of a difference maker he is for the team. Um, so an interesting stat that I read about was in the 29 games without him, the Spurs win percentage in the Premier League drops from 54% to 37%. Um, and they win about 2 points when he's per on average when he's on the side versus only 1.2 without him. So it makes a pretty big difference. Um, and then, yeah, I think that second goal too was I really don't know what Kepa was doing on that. There was
When
no
he
need
tripped
to.
Son,
Yeah, there was no need to do that.
Son was going nowhere.
Yeah.
I
Do
thought,
you
go ahead.
did you think that first goal was lucky, or did you think he meant to
Oh,
cross
he
it
did not. He meant to
or
cross
meant to?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, he definitely meant to cross it. It's one of those mishit.
perfect shot though. Miss hit.
I will say though, former Bournemouth man who now plays for Tottenham, he was non-existent.
Yeah, he he didn't really see the ball much. I think he had the least number of touches um, out of any player in the game.
Wow. And then the opposite end, Evan Nielsen, I thought had a really impressive game. Second game back from injury. He's a player I think we've mentioned early on, um, in our earlier episodes of the podcast where like he hasn't gotten the goals for Bournemouth, but he's just a constant threat, with like his link up play and kind of being a nuisance. But I'm a huge fan of Evan Nielsen. I think he's quality.
Yeah, and you could see that Bournemouth were missing a striker for a while. And like they had a Toro playing as a striker at most of the time, and surprisingly, like he filled in pretty well. Like was able to get some goals and assists, but um, yeah, they're definitely a different team with a proper striker.
hmm
And then
Um,
that first goal, that was quality by Kirkez and
I was just
the
about to say
team.
that. Shouts out Kirk as that cross is beautiful.
It just reminded me of like a training session type of goal where, like, you know, the drill where like your coach passes it to one of your backs and then your back takes a touch and then
hmm
cross it and then three guys you run into the box and then
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was crazy
That's
because he picked the ball up almost his own half and like drove it all the way.
yeah. It reminded me just of that drill. I used to hate that drill too as a keeper just because like
You know a shot was coming in.
yeah, from like close range and some guys
Yeah.
had would have no mercy.
hmm
Balls flying. Uh but yeah, with that Bournemouth sitting in ninth, but had they taken all 3 points, would have been at 46 points and only a game back from or a point back from City in fifth. But let's move on to the other game. During the same window, Chelsea versus Leicester. We ended up beating Leicester 1-0. Finally, some momentum with a couple wins here back to back in the Premier League. Granted, it is against the worst two teams in the league. I do think we were fairly lucky, and happy that we did get the win, but also disappointed with not being able to put the game away or grab some more goals against one of the leakiest teams.
Yeah, Cole Palmer missing that's his first like penalty miss in his career.
Mm-hmm. Yep, in the Premier League. Yep.
That was a good save though. He's a
Yeah.
goalkeeper. I feel like if y'all, because I've been saying y'all need a goalkeeping upgrade and splurge on Diogo Costa, but if y'all want to save money, and go for a cheap option, I feel like Hermanson's like a decent shout.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we were linked to him uh in the winter, but just due to injuries and stuff, he wasn't available.
hmm
Um, but I think that was definitely a guy, and hopefully is still a guy that's on our radar. He's pretty quality with his feet too, composed.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him this year. Uh, I didn't pay too close attention to this Leicester game. I kind of tuned into it a bit more the second half, just when I saw the scoreline was still 0-0. Um, One player for Leicester who I will say I think has been a huge disappointment since his arrival, and unfortunate for Leicester fans is Patson Daka because I think they really bought him to be the Vardy replacement. He just hasn't really been the player that they were hoping to get. Um, and I'm not sure why Bonate's been just coming off the bench these days. Like I feel like he started off super hot, got injured a little bit, and ever since like just been not off the bench player.
Yeah, and even like his confidence, like when he's dribbling and stuff, like he doesn't seem to have the same confidence he did to start the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I know like El Canus has kind of had a breakout year. I wouldn't say a breakout, but it's been like the best out of the bad bunch. But yeah, but like Bonate, I don't know. He started off really well, but ever since his injury, just coming off the bench, and even when he comes off the bench, I feel like I feel like it is because like he started off so hot and now dropped to the bench. Like his confidence is a bit shot.
Yeah, you can see that when he just picks up the ball too. He's not driving forward like he did. His first instinct's always kind of to just kind of play the safe pass. But maybe it's just something Van Nistelrooy too with the new manager doesn't like what he's seeing. It's hard to tell. But I will say, you know, especially this game, what I've noticed is how much we've missed Nicholas Jackson, and how underappreciated he goes across, I think, most fans of the Premier League, because his issue's always been about finishing, which he has slightly improved this year, but he shows his quality in other aspects of the game, and you can see that like we're really missing that right now. Like the runs he makes, the link up play, hold up play, dribbling past defenders, and even like starting the press. Like he does that all. I mean, I guess Neto does pretty well with the press too, but Nicholas Jackson does all of that really well. And Sancho and Kunku are just nowhere near the same level he is.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Jackson's absence kind of had the most impact on Cole Palmer. Because that, to your point, Jackson, he's kind of that unselfish player, will make the runs, so kind of opens up for Palmer. Whereas now he doesn't really have that option, so you can kind of see he's kind of lacking that creativity without Jackson.
Yeah. And under Maresca, like one trait of a really good manager is when players improve under a manager. That's a sign of a great manager. Has there been any player on this team um, that you've been like, wow, they've improved?
For Chelsea, I'd say a little bit of Enzo Fernandez gradually, but he's really the only one.
Yeah, I agree. I That's one thing that's kind of worrying me right now is if anything, players have maybe dipped slightly under Maresca. Um, and yeah, to your point, probably Enzo's just the only one that's improved. And maybe Cucurella, but I think that's also like he's just he's always been class, but I think he's just returning to that form now after he just had some personal issues going on. So I'm not going to even count him. So
And with the
aside,
he kind of got a confidence boost with the Euros. Ever since
yeah,
then, he's been like crazy.
he's back to his Brighton days. So just outside of Enzo Fernandez, I don't think anyone's really improved. And if anything, players have maybe dipped slightly.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe Casado too, but I feel like this is the Casado we all
Hmm.
knew of during Brighton. So I wouldn't say he has improved. This is the level he's been at.
Yeah, I would agree. Because even the last few months with Pochettino, or like the last month with Pochettino, he improved, and he just carried that into the season.
Hmm.
So that's a little worrying for me with Enzo, but again, it is his first year managing in the Premier League, so hopefully give him some time.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely done well in terms of having you guys on the table, where you guys are, yeah, sitting fourth. Like, I don't think a lot of other people would have expected Chelsea to even kind of be in that European competition qualifying spot. So just being in that Champions League spot itself, I feel like Enzo's done well there.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I know we got a lot of slack for like the number of players we have and stuff, but um, when I look at our bench, like we really don't have anyone that I have confidence in bringing on, So he's done it with somewhat of a thin locker room as well.
You think you have a thin squad?
Yeah, I mean, just look at our bench from this game, and even
Oh,
the.
I meant like yeah, I guess with the injuries, but like overall, I feel like you guys still have a pretty stacked bench.
I mean, we had Lavia, but I mean, this was his first game back from injury. He didn't even see the field.
Mhm.
Um,
No, I just meant in general. I think you guys had a pretty strong. I didn't know you're referring to just this game specifically. I thought you meant like overall through the season.
yeah, well, I mean, even overall through the season, I don't think so because Lavia, I wouldn't really count him because he's been hurt for a large chunk of the year. Um, so that midfield we've been having to rely on Caicedo, Enzo, and then Dewsbury Hall. And I wouldn't even classify Dewsbury Hall as like a super quality player. Um, for like he's definitely not Champions League type player. And then in terms of our strikers, we have Nicholas Jackson and Kunku and Kunku's and then wingers, I mean Madueke's been hurt. Pedro Neto we got fairly recent. Um, it would have been nice if we had both of them at the same time, but and then we have Sancho and Mudryk kind of he's been gone. So like our only other winger option is Tyreek George, who's a teenager. So for all the slack we've been getting about like, oh, y'all have a crazy amount of players, like a lot of them are on loans somewhere else and not necessarily in our locker room. But on the flip side as well, on the Leicester or yeah, Leicester side, ex Man United Van Nistelrooy is now uh he joins Russell Martin and Mickey McCarthy as the only other managers in their first 15 games um, with a loss percentage of 80% or more. So he's lost 12 out of the 15 games he's managed with Leicester.
Yeah, I think a lot of managers would lose with this Leicester squad. Quite trash squad.
Yeah, but you also see managers come in, you get the manager bounce. We were probably saying the same thing last year with Nottingham, but Nuno was able to eke out some draws here and there. Um,
You just had to throw the United shade, Van Nistelrooy.
these are just stats. Yeah,
I know you, man. I
facts.
know you.
These are just facts.
I know how you operate. I see the agenda. Fine
These
by
are just
me.
yeah, these are just facts. So, um,
Got the one United hate comment per epi.
oh, I can throw some more coming your way.
Yeah, I feel it.
We can go there next.
Come
We
at
can
me, bro.
we can go to what was supposed to be a fun game. Arsenal versus United. Uh, ended up being 1-1. A great goal by Bruno Fernandes in first half stoppage time. And then Declan Rice, man, might be player of the match there. Uh, he had a goal, also probably had a game-saving tackle. Um, but yeah, ended up being 1-1. I'll let you go first here and kind of your thoughts.
Yeah, so I thought the first half was um pretty much domination one-sided by Arsenal. Uh in terms of possession, um because in terms of chances, I don't think they really had that great of chances, but possession wise, we were definitely just kind of sitting back, defending for our lives. Garnacho was really the only outlet. Um and that came into play when I thought Bruno was doing quite well, just at least getting the ball like forward, any sort of creativity, but got that outlet pass to Garnacho right before the half, who got fouled. And to your point, the Bruno free kick. I guess there's a little controversy because it was 11.2 yards away from the wall, so yard and 1.2, yeah, yards further, which I guess gave the room for him to get over the wall. Um, but then I thought we played a really well second half. Could have actually pulled out a win. Raya, I thought, made some pretty crazy stops. The one on Mazarawi, the one at the very end on Bruno. But yeah, I think this is a story of Arsenal just as we've hammered it before, like just not scary on the attack if they don't have the set piece. Like Grandpa Casemiro was having a great day. So when he's having a good day, that's when you know you're kind of slacking on the attack.
Yeah, I thought to your point, this was a you guys played it perfectly. Don't get me wrong, in terms of this was really unlike Amarin to kind of do what was best to get a win, but not necessarily play the way he'd want to play. Um, but y'all ultimately got the point. Probably look like the more likely to end up winning the game at the end too, but um, it just wasn't fun to watch as a neutral, I guess. Like historically, you see this fixture and you're drooling over how entertaining it's going to be. It was really the opposite. You guys were just sitting low block, and I mean, we've discussed on here how Arsenal just don't have the facilities for that. Without Saka, they don't have anyone that can create stuff out of nowhere, be that creative player. But yeah, y'all defended great. I thought your shadow of Haven or Heaven,
Hmm. Heaven. Yeah.
Heaven, I wouldn't say he played great. I mean, he was good, but it wasn't like I thought he just got the job done, kind of.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't like anything crazy. He looked comfortable, which is quite like pretty bad for on an Arsenal standpoint for a youngster like that to make his Premier League debut and just kind of fit right in. Um, but hopefully this isn't Amarin taking a few steps back and pulling a Ten Hog, um, which I don't think he will. Just post game interview, he said, I have the quote, but he said, "When you coach United, you can't play like that much. The idea is to win the game, uh, and not to show something just to the fans. So I don't think he's gonna just play it just to get a dub, but not really implement his style and the way he wants to play. But yeah, y'all really played that perfectly in terms of just sitting low.
I thought surprisingly Mazarawi had a really good game playing that wingback role. I don't really prefer him at the wingback spot, but I thought he did a really good job going forward. Um, he got in really good positions. And then the other part of the Bayern Munich deal, I thought De Ligt also had a good game. He's kind of adding that game that Maguire has, the long ball switches, like playing those really well. Uh, Garnacho, this was one of the very few games where he looked pretty good in the inverted 10 role. Uh, and then on the flip side, Arsenal, I don't know, Odegaard, he he does a lot of what we call like busy work, but like creativity, and I feel like that was kind of missing. Like a lot of people have that Bruno, KDB, or Odegaard, which one's levels, and I stick to my word. Like Bruno's levels ahead of Odegaard, and I think this game really showed it as well.
Yeah, completely agree. Bruno almost grabbed the winner a couple times. And then, yeah, on Arsenal side, not just Odegaard, but I mean both the wingers, Trossard and Nweri, like especially Ethan Nweri, like I thought after coming off an amazing performance against PSV, I was telling you before the game that I was like, oh, the matchup to watch is him versus Euro. But Ethan was quiet all game. It's pretty poor. Same with Trossard. And again, like you know, great teams. What they have is like the Liverpools, the Man Cities. Historically, they've had Salah, De Bruyne slash Foden to rely or De Bruyne to rely on, but then they always have like that one or two other guys that can step up and get you goals when those guys are slightly off. And Arsenal don't have that. Like City had Foden. Julian Alvarez would definitely fit into that mold. Liverpool, I would say, like this year, for example, like Harvey Elliott, Darwin Núñez at times,
Cody
Sobos,
Gapco.
yeah, Soboslai. So you have guys that pop up when your main man isn't firing.
Yeah, like bringing on Tierney and in 2025 Arsenal, like that's jokes.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know. You think uh I was watching like a breakdown of the game a bit, and there was like because they don't. I think it was once when Yeri got subbed off, they brought in Martinelli. So Martinelli, he was able to like hold the width, but like Odegaard had the ball. I think it was like the 61st minute. They're on the attack, but then Trossard, Marino, Partey, and Rice, they all come towards Odegaard instead of like going for the width. So there's no really no option, and Odegaard had to kind of go all the way backward to his own half. Um, so you think like I know he's been hasn't been the best of loans, but like you think Sterling could have came on instead of Marino, uh, and have like Trossard play the false nine? Because you know with Sterling at least you get some running in
we,
behind. Um,
yeah, but he just doesn't have that pace anyway. But I think Arsenal just they wanted like those kind of more technical players and see if they could pass their way around. Um, And I think I don't know if you said it or what I was talking about this, but like Arsenal really think they're like prime Barca tiki taka because they really seem to play that way where they overload a side or even like playing out the back. They love to like do these like little tiki taka type things, and same with like as you're saying, like they overload a side, but like a lot of these guys can't pull off what Barca was doing, and like they're kind of like stagnant even though when they're like trying to like be technical and pass around a team.
yeah, that's a really good description. Very stagnant. Uh, it's kind of a hard watch at times watching Arsenal.
I feel bad for Declan Rice though, because that dude is quality. I thought he was a standout player in this game on both
Yeah.
ends.
hmm Yeah, he had a good game. Um, that was such a crucial challenge on Hoyland.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so you think what do you think of like I guess Arsenal's transfer strategy? Because like, would you say Raya was a necessary requirement for them? Because I don't think he's been good. Like, I'd say he's been really good for him, but like, I don't know, like having to spend money on Raya to replace Ramsdale, like I feel like they've just been a few steps behind uh in grabbing their transfers.
Yeah, I agree. They I feel like they've kind of acknowledged that they've made an error and not going after some attacking options. But yeah, I think this upcoming transfer window, like, well, we said it for the winter transfer window, like how it was emergency, like they needed to get someone and they didn't.
hmm
But like if they don't go after anyone in the summer, it's just gonna be the same story. Like where are they gonna get the goals from?
Yeah.
But it might be Arteta's last year, honestly. Because even as an Arsenal fan, like I would be so frustrated because like it's clear that like they need to improve that attack.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, it's yeah, their attack just they don't have a out and out striker. That's really just held them back like a lot.
Who do you think their top target should be?
Um,
Or maybe
I
targets?
I think it has to be either between uh Victor Osimhen or Gyökeres, one of the two Victors. What about you?
Uh, yeah, I think in terms of possible striker they could get, that may be somewhat unrealistic, but depending on how the rest of the season plays out, could be a possibility, is Isak. Um, he would, I think, fit in with this team fairly well. Um, and I think if Newcastle don't make the Champions League, uh, I think he's going to be looking to get a move to a team that is in the Champions League. And then another player that I think should make a move in his career is Lookman from Atalanta. And I think he would fit in very well with this team, playing especially out in the left where I think they need to upgrade that position. I think Lookman, just some of the disrespect he's gotten from the manager, but then he's also at an all-time high in his form. So I think capitalizing that and making a big move to Arsenal. And then lastly, another like lower level tier guy than the two victors that you mentioned is Rutegi. Um, he's had an amazing season with Atalanta. I know under Gasperini, a lot of strikers do go off and don't necessarily replicate that at other teams, but um, I think Arsenal, if they aren't able to secure one of the two guys that you mentioned, I think Rutegi would be a good like tier B option.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of his game. He has a lot of the tools, um, and kind of blew up like at Genoa. Like, yeah, you saw the game a bit, but at the Euros, I thought he was a little disappointing. But yeah, this year he's gone off. Um, so I think he'd be a good option.
Yeah,
But to your point, it's just it is a little risky just because of the strikers. Like they'll be at a high at Atalanta, and whenever they do get the move, they kind of stink it up a little bit. But Retegui, I feel like Retegui is kind of different.
yeah. It's definitely a big risk just considering this is his first season that he's really kind of uh put his name up there. But I think Arsenal definitely need to go after uh like a top striker right now.
Who would you say? So I know you mentioned. Did you say you think that Arsenal should let go of Arteta as well? Because you
No,
think that's like the limit.
yeah, I've always thought that, but I think maybe just one more season with um assuming he can get some attacking power.
Hmm.
Um, I think if it'd be very silly for him not to go after some attackers. So if he doesn't, he should get sacked for being that dumb.
Yeah.
Um, but then if he does get the backing to go after some strikers or wingers, and then he still fails, and
Hmm.
he not necessarily fails where like, oh, they lose it on the last couple games or something, but where they're not even close to the Champions League, they are embarrassingly in second like they are this year, where they're
Yep.
way behind.
Hmm.
um, then I think it's he should be gone.
Yeah. Who's any? Well, I guess it's still a long ways out, but at the moment, any current managers you think would be the right fit for him? Maybe elevate them and get them over the line.
Hmm. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll probably have to think on that one because I'm not really. I'm not sure, to be honest. I'll probably have to think on that one a little more.
Mhm.
Do you have any coaches that come to mind?
I have one, but I think he might need like one more year to kind of prove himself. But I've been really impressed with Cesc Fabregas at Como.
Ooh.
So I think he'd be. I think I mentioned to you over the weekend, like Xavi Alonso is the one that's been getting like hella hype, but I think Cesc has kind of gone under the radar, and his team's pretty fun to watch. Like Como shouldn't be where they're at um in Serie A.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's credits to Fabregas.
Yeah, he's definitely a coach that like has been able to profile the type of players he wants on his squad, which
Hmm.
is what Arteta's kind of been lacking.
Yeah.
But yeah, Xabi Alonso is a pretty good shout too, but I don't know if that's a realistic one.
No, I don't think Xavi Alonso would. Would you consider maybe because I think Ancelotti's leaving. Like, you think bringing Ancelotti just for the trophies?
No, and a probably hot take from me is like I think Ancelotti can probably I couldn't see him winning it with Arsenal. Um, I always thought he's kind of a player manager. He needs some really quality players around him. Look at Milan, Chelsea, Madrid. Um, what he did with Everton was impressive, but I don't think like tactically he's like the most brilliant guy.
Yeah, to your point, I think he is a great man manager, but in terms of tactics, um, he's not really like he knows when to bring in the right subs and stuff, but tactically, I don't think he's kind of up there with the others.
Agreed. Um, but yeah, let's move on from. Were there any other games from the weekend that you wanted to touch on or give a shout out to?
Uh, from the weekend, not in the Premier League, but just Serie A. Big shout out to Atalanta away from home. Um, I was planning on having this on the schedule to cover, but it was such a like one-sided affair where Atalanta dominated Juve 4-0. So shouts out to them. They're definitely in this race for the Scudetto.
Yeah, and also sticking to Serie A, Saturday, there were some great games with Milan coming back. They were down 2-0 against Lecce, um, and Christian Pulisic coming in with a penalty and then the game-winning goal as well. And then Inter also kind of looked like they were, was this going to be a fluke game? You know, the title race is really close, but they were also able to come back with a crazy goal from Chananalu.
That was such a clean strike. And other games, just to recap really quickly, La Liga, I know it's a three-headed race. Atletico got upsetted against Getafe. Uh, Atletico should have won, but they got unfortunate with the red. So they dropped points there crucially. Real Madrid picked up points winning versus Rayo Vallecano, and then unfortunately Barca they had to get their match canceled because of a death. Uh, Someone died at the club,
Yeah,
right?
their top medic, yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
passed
sad.
away.
Um,
Uh, but yeah, I think that La Liga race is still close. Atletico, um,
all
that
the it sucks because all the leagues are so close except the Premier League.
yeah,
I guess for the European spots though, it's still really tight.
that's true. Um, but let's move on to the Champions League. We'll cover these real quick. Um, games we won't really touch on. Uh, Barca won 3-1. It's like 3-1 against Benfica. So they moved on 4-1 aggregate. Lamine Yamal, what a player. Rafinha got 2 goals, but to me, Lamine Yamal was a standout assist and an amazing goal. Bayern Munich, this was a surprise, I think, to both of us where, yeah, they were probably, we expected them to move on, but not like this in a 5-0 aggregate against Leverkusen. First time I've really seen Xavi Alonso tactically outmatched.
Real quick question. I know we're not gonna really dive too deep into this, but what do you think about Xavi Alonso always rotating the keepers? I've never been a fan of that.
Yeah, I don't get it. I get it for like the domestic cup games and stuff, but for like Champions League and like league games, I don't understand that either.
Yeah, that was strange.
But I think coming into this game, we probably expected Munich to win. Xhaka's not healthy, and Wirtz is a big loss.
Hmm.
And then Inter 1-2-1 against Feyenoord, moving on, aggregate 4-1. That
That's my
was
sleep.
your
Yeah.
team, right? Okay,
Hmm.
so you picked Inter. Um, and then we'll talk about PSG, Liverpool. PSG was the team I had winning the Champions League. They won 1-0 at Anfield and won on penalties, knocking out who a lot of people thought were the best team in the world. Um, I'll let you go first. What were kind of your initial reactions from this game? And maybe both legs because we didn't really touch on it.
Yeah, I thought first leg was um I think I gave the analogy where Aaron Gordon in that dunk contest, that was a
Oh, that's
highway
right.
robbery, but this the PSG Liverpool game, that first leg was even a bigger highway robbery where PSG should have won. Literally, Liverpool just got uh they had one shot on target and that shot was the goal. But again, this leg I thought PSG gave Liverpool, but other than the first 15 first 10 minutes,
Hmm.
I thought PSG dominated this game again. I think this is a game Slot has to be blamed a bit. You saw the first leg how Luis Diaz and Jota were so poor, and he stuck them back into that lineup. I thought he could change it up there, and I thought it was also this Liverpool squad. I mean, they are top team in the world, but they're really leggy. Because he does not rotate. Like the game over the weekend versus Southampton,
Hmm.
uh, you could have played your second team. Like even if y'all were losing, you have more than enough quality. Like Gravenberch does not need to be playing that game for Southampton. This man, he looked like his legs looked done this game. Um, but credits to PSG, they're
Yeah, and real quick, because that's something I wanted to touch on earlier was like that Southampton game, they had to come back, but that was really unfortunate. They had to bring in Gravenberch or McAllister too,
Mhm.
where both those guys looked exhausted against PSG. Um,
Yeah.
but it would have been okay if they dropped points against Southampton. They've got that league under wraps.
Yeah, for sure. It's like almost double digit
Yeah.
lead. So having it wraps, but credit to PSG, man. I think you're right. Um, I mean, in the league, they can rest a lot of players and really put their focus on the Champions League. And this team, they don't have the big superstar names, but they're a collective unit, work for each other. And that front three of Vicha, Dembele, and Barcola are the most free-flowing front three. Like all three of them can play all three positions up there. So they're super fluid and from back to front, they're just well balanced.
Yeah, agreed. And then even coming off the bench, like, dude, Desiree Doué being
Game
a
changer.
a teenager, but yeah, to your point, a game changer. 19 years old, just unbelievable. And then they were able to bring Zaire Emery, who fit right in that midfield. Um,
He's also a 19-year-old.
yeah, but like Desiree Doué for me is like those other guys you mentioned. Like he can play across any of that front three position, can drop into the midfield as well. Um, but it'll be interesting if they ever do start Gonzalo Ramos. because he does add a different element. Because at times it seemed like Dembele or Vicha, like Vieira wanted to have a cross, and they did have some beautiful crosses, but like I feel like if you did have a true striker at times, they could have gotten to the end of that.
Mhm.
So I wonder if Luis Enrique will switch that. But yeah, to your point, they don't have a big name. And I wanted to give a shout out to an unsung hero, I think, is Nuno Mendes. Just,
Yeah.
dude, Salah has looked incredible this entire year. The two poor games he's had is against Nuno Mendes. Salah was non-existent first leg. This leg, he in the 6th minute, he had a really wide open net, and Mendes came out of nowhere with a block. Shut down Salah for most of both legs. Salah had one run where he got past Mendes from midfield, but
That was
other than
nasty.
that was yeah. But
I don't
other
know.
than that,
Salah had a Champions League wise overall. I thought he was quiet.
yeah,
Um,
agreed.
you think this hurt because he's been like ballistic Premier League, but you think this hurts his Ballon d'Or shouts? Because I know they do weigh Champions League a bit in it, or not
For
a
sure.
bit,
Yeah.
quite a bit actually. So
Oh no, for sure. I mean, depending on how Madrid do, I think Mbappe could be a shout. I think Vinny's been poor this year, so Mbappe could be a shout. I think if Barca win it, Rafinha or Lamine Yamal could be in it. Maybe Harry Kane. He's been sneakily good. And then Dembele too has been sleepy. You know how many goals he scored in the 2025 already?
I'll say, is he up to like 25?
He's at 21 goals already in
Oh
2 months.
my.
In 2 months, so it's like in 9 games, I think.
Mm-hmm.
21 goals,
Jeez.
insane. So he could be, but like I think Salah, depending on how his final numbers in Premier League ends up being, he could win it because I think he might have the greatest Premier League season of all time.
Yeah, that's undoubtedly. Yeah, I think season Premier League wise, it's gonna be wild the season he's having. But yeah, this was a disappointing Champions League campaign for him for his standards.
Yeah, and then shout out to Donnarumma too for the penalties. He's terrific in goal in PKs.
He's a weird one because I like him.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I feel like he always has a mistake in him here and there. But he's a top keeper, man. It's crazy. He's still
hmm
only 26.
I feel like he gets hated on a lot, or like people will write him off as being like overrated and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think he's overrated. I think he's a top keeper in the world.
hmm
Yeah, he'll have the mistake here and there, but I feel like every keeper has. I
And
guess
his
his is like maybe a blunder
but
when
his
he does
mistakes
have.
aren't crazy. Like he had one last year, but against what was it, Madrid?
Yeah.
But other than, I don't really remember like against Liverpool against Elliott, like he should save it, but it wasn't really a mistake
Yeah,
necessarily.
it's not like a guarantee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Because
and
of,
go
oh,
ahead.
real quick, like the penalty, Curtis Jones was quite poor, but like Darwin Nunez's penalty was in the corner and like fired hard. It wasn't like just a soft.
Yeah, I thought that was a good
It
PK.
was a really good
Yeah.
penalty save. I
He's
think
one
he
of
just like
those.
he just shrinks the goal in penalties.
Yeah, he's one of those where it's intimidating because he's so big. Like, you gotta literally place it like perfectly,
Yeah.
or he just guesses the wrong way. Um, I thought Liverpool, yeah, I thought PSG looked a lot better, I'll be honest. Liverpool, they had their chance here and there with like the Kwanzaa post.
Mm.
But yeah, overall, this was deserved. Like PSG deserved it. Shouts out also to Luis Enrique, man. He's a good manager. a lot of people were going to question this team when they lost Mbappe, but I think even he said it like he thinks this is or is Vitinha, sorry. He's Vitinha said is like the best team. This is the best PSG team. Because everyone works as a unit. And even last year, PSG could have moved to the final if it wasn't for all the misses they had versus Dortmund. Um,
Crossbars.
yeah. But it was super hyped to see after the PKs when they were all running to celebrate. Uh, like finally getting the recognition is like Dembele, Luis Enrique just went up and gave him a huge hug, first
Hmm.
player. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, I enjoyed this team a lot. Just with like I feel like France is kind of turning over into this. They relied so heavily on Mbappe, and then they had like the Mbappe, Griezmann, Pogba, Conte era, but now it's like I think it's the tide is shifting now. You have this whole PSG.
Hmm.
And then also I think another player that we quickly need to give a shout out to is Barry Escala. Just like coming into PSG, I know some people questioned him like is he really worth all that money coming from Napoli and stuff like that, but you could see his quality in this big stage. He Yeah, you could see why they paid so much for him.
Hmm. He's kind of he's a pinned in starter for them. And I was one where yeah, I thought it was an upgrade, but I didn't think it was a necessary like they could have spent their money elsewhere. Like I thought like a Marquinhos upgrade maybe just because his age. And he's kind of always at the heart of the mistake at times.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought they could have had an upgrade there, but yeah, Bicha, he's definitely elevated them.
Do you think that's going to be kind of a drawback for them moving on to the quarters and semis is their defense?
Who's they play Barca next?
No,
Um,
next they'll be yeah. Wait, no, they'll play I think they play Villa. Yeah.
okay. I think they can honestly get past Villa. But even their defense, they look good and like I think Mendes, the only question was always like him staying fit. So he's been pretty fit this year. Hakimi's been solid. William Pacho, he's another who's when we did our transfer 11, he was on my short list, but I thought coming from Bundesliga, I don't know how he's gonna adapt, but he was looking really good too.
Oh yeah, and even his passes out the back is impressive.
Hmm.
Um and then real quick, speaking of Nuno Mendes, I thought his pass leading up to the goal was just world class too. Just like
Yeah.
somewhat under pressure, but then that 30-yard line breaking pass into Dembele.
Even to picking out that pass was ridiculous.
And it just blows my mind that that kid is still only 22.
Hmm.
It's hard to think of any better left backs in the world right now.
Yeah, he's insane. He has
And then,
literally all the attributes you need from a left back.
oh yeah. Um, and then Hakimi too, just like you said, quality, but like it's impressive how he does not get tired. He was running for that full 120 minutes.
Hmm. Would you place blame on Slot uh for Liverpool's exit?
Yeah, just for not rotating or resting some guys. I think that midfield got absolutely dominated, and I think you could tell Gravenberch and McAllister especially getting pretty leggy.
And
And
it sucks because McAllister is like he's a shoe-in PK taker. He would have been at least if wasn't subbed out. Same with Subasly. Subasly's like a shoo-in PK taker, so but I mean at the end of the day, PK is a bit of luck as well, but
Yeah.
I mean they never miss, so
All right. So yeah, we'll have PSG playing Villa next round. Um, and then the winner of that will in the semis will play the winner of Arsenal Madrid. Arsenal today tied PSV 2-2, so they're moving on a 9-3 aggregate. And then real quick, Villa beat Club Brugge 3-0 today, so 6-1 aggregate. And then Dortmund, uh, they had a comeback win today, 2-1 against Lille. Uh, and so they will be playing in the quarters against Barca. Inter will be playing Bayern. Winner of those will meet in the semis. And then, like we said, Arsenal will be playing Real Madrid. Real Madrid lost today, but they move on in penalties. I guess what were your initial thoughts from today?
um sorry, real just a real quick before we hop onto this big game. PSV disgraceful performance that first leg, 7-1.
Yeah.
Um Embarrassing.
It's also a shame to Juve because Juve needed to win against PSV and for them not to.
They would have put a better fight. This was
Yeah.
bonkers. And drawing today versus this Arsenal squad, um, who had Tierney playing at left mid, like
And
bro,
Jorginho and Zinchenko in the midfield.
yeah, I don't know, PSV man. But this Madrid derby was insane. Um,
Both legs.
yeah, both legs insane. Uh, that first leg had quality goals, like bangers. Um, and so Real Madrid 2-1 up after that first leg, and then this leg, a lot of teams from the kickoff, they'll kind of get a feel for it, pass around the back. But Atletico, no, they were ready to kill from the start. 27 seconds in, fastest goal this Champions League campaign. Your boy Gallagher.
I miss
Uh,
him so much.
yeah, he's Simeone loves him, and I think he was a good. Uh, he's a really smart player to start instead of Lino because he'll do a lot of the running dirty work for you. Um,
Hmm.
grab those exact type of goals, putting the body on the line. But I feel for Atletico getting knocked out. I thought they were really the better team. Um, really dominated the game, and this is another one where Vinny just looked maybe like the worst player on the pitch.
Hmm.
Uh, I think I think the ratings, player ratings, they give it based off PKs, but like even without the PK miss, yeah, he looked bad, but even without that, like he was looking terrible. Like I don't know, man. Um, so I thought Real Madrid unconvincingly and undeservingly moved on. Um,
And to
and
your point about Vinny, it's not just today, but I think first leg against Atletico, he looked better. Definitely over the weekend, his goal was pretty spectacular, but I can't remember him having many good games. I remember a lot more bad games. I don't know if that's just it's not really biased because I want to see him do well, but like
Mhm.
I honestly don't remember him having many good games this year.
No, I think we'll see like glimpses here and there, but never a consistency. Like this weekend, he had a great solo goal, but we just haven't seen that enough.
Yeah. And even that, it was like that goal was nice, but then outside of that, he just didn't do much else. Because Real Madrid probably should have lost this weekend too, or not
Mhm.
lost, but tied.
Yeah.
They were on the back foot, and this is kind of embarrassing considering. how much of a big deal Vinny and Real Madrid made about him being the Ballon d'Or winner, like should have been the Ballon d'Or winner. This is
Hmm.
very embarrassing.
Yeah, I did not think the better team advanced from this one, but sometimes you need luck to go your way. They definitely got luck with Alvarez's unfortunate PK. The first time I've seen in history where they gave the green light and then reviewed it.
Dude,
Um,
even like after watching it over and over, I don't see the second
I did
touch.
I did see it eventually, but it was like had to really zoom in like 20K.
Dude, I still, yeah, you'll need to send me that because, man, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, I felt so bad.
I was so confused. Like they kind of just glanced over it too during the game. They didn't make it a big thing.
Mm-mm.
I was so confused what was happening.
Yeah, exactly. What were your thoughts? You think it was the
Um,
wrong team sent home?
no, I think it was pretty fair. I think it was more of a toss-up, so both teams advancing be fine with because I think Atletico definitely looked better today, like you said. But first leg, I'd have to give the edge to Real Madrid. Um, but also Real today they had Bellingham back, which is a big difference maker. But Real Madrid just in general this year has looked like they've been on the ropes a lot. But I think a lot of times that's just what you see in great teams where you're on the ropes fighting, but you somehow are able to push through. And in terms of players stepping up when others aren't, today was another example of I thought Camavinga when he came on was one of Madrid's best players. He made two, three like amazing tackles that stopped the counter.
Hmm. Yeah, he was looking really good.
You know, he might actually be my super sub of the week.
Yeah, that's
Him,
a
him,
he
him and
put in a
Benavent.
shift.
Yeah. And he's been struggling this year too.
Yeah, ever since the injury, he's been
Hmm.
um it was nice to see. I think it was an extra time where Atletico had a break, and out of all people, Mbappe tracking all the way back, making a sliding tackle. I said, Mbappe, haven't seen this.
He was the only Rodrigo I think was good, but um Mbappe looked pretty good. We gave him a lot of crap the first 2 months, deservingly, because he was pretty bad. But
Hmm.
I think he's really you can see why he's world class.
Yeah. I thought Rodrigo was done a little dirty getting subbed out. Uh, Brahim Brahim didn't
It,
really bring the impact this game, and I thought Rodrigo was he didn't deserve to get subbed out. I
agreed.
don't think.
I think you should have put him out where Vinny was and take Vinny out.
Yeah, I think that would have been a smarter one. You got to be ruthless sometimes. Like,
And then why is Vinny taking the PK? I thought it was always Mbappe for this team.
yeah, I don't know. That was a terrible PK miss.
Yeah.
And then
I was so confused.
to listeners as well, this is one of those games. If we kept it at the old format, Atletico technically would have moved on. Even though aggregate was 2-2 because they got an away goal, but with this new format, I think it was starting last year where away
Mhm.
goals don't carry any weight.
Yeah. I like that. Um, but let's make our predictions for the quarterfinals. Barring any crazy injuries or anything, who do you have moving on? PSG Villa.
PSG.
Do you think it's gonna be close?
I think the one in like when they play Villa when Villa's home, it'll be close, but once it goes to France, I think PSG win it comfortably.
Mm. Yeah, I think I agree. PSG moves on. I think Villa, the way they play, their back line, I think they're going to be susceptible to a bunch of goals.
Mhm.
But it'll be a fun battle to see Unai back. Paris,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Paris. Um, and then let's move on to Arsenal, Real Madrid.
Stay humble, eh?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think so too. I think Real Madrid is just class. Both teams are kind of in the same boat to me, where they're kind of not at their best, but Real Madrid are at a better level, I think.
Yeah. Heritage.
Herit facts.
Jose Mourinho. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what it is for Real Madrid sometimes. It's just like they just got the Champions League DNA.
Hmm.
Form and everything from the league goes out the window when it comes to Champions League form.
And it's unfortunate because I don't know if Saka will be back. Will he?
I think he's mid-April is his predicted, so
Maybe the second leg?
second leg I think he'll be back.
Okay. In the Bernabeu. That'll be fun though to see if Saka does return, like if he can make a difference.
I heard he was like in training, like slowly getting a kickabout here and there in training.
Ooh, that's good news. Yeah, I mean, you can't hate Saka no matter what team you
Yeah.
support. But we'll see how Arsenal come out versus Real Madrid. Both teams struggle against that low block. And then we have, and then also Real Madrid, dude. It was so weird today seeing Vasquez take every single set piece. I was so confused by that too.
Yeah, that man.
That brother is washed. And he was the one that missed the PK. I was hollering.
And he's known for his PKs.
Is
That's the
he?
one. Yeah. He
Oh,
doesn't miss usually.
oh, his PK was poor.
Yeah. That man need
Uh,
to go.
and then we have Bayern versus Inter. This one is going to be a tricky one for me.
I think it's spicy on paper, but I think Inter, they just got the manager that's gonna outclass Mr. Baldy.
You're going with your boys.
Yeah.
I'm going with Bayern on this. I think I do agree that Inter definitely have the better manager. Um, but Bayern, they kind of have the league on wrap, which I don't know if I put too much weight on it, but I do think it makes a difference. Um, and their
Definitely can
upcoming,
rotate the squad. Uh
oh yeah, and I mean their upcoming games, they're playing Union Berlin, who's kind of towards the bottom of the table, and then St. Pauli, who's also in the bottom of the table. So, eh, not much they have to worry about. Versus Inter, they have Atalanta, and then they have Milan in the Coppa Italia. So they have some big games where I don't think they'll rest guys.
Mhm.
Uh, I do think Inzaghi is a great manager, but Bayern Munich too, they still have quality, experienced guys. Um, and I think a difference maker is going to be Elise. He's been, he's looked amazing this year. But against that Inter side where their wingbacks like to push up a ton, if Bastoni ends up playing the wingback role, I think it can be big troubles. I don't know if because I didn't get to watch their game today.
DeMarco.
But do you know
Yeah.
if DeMarco is going to be playing?
Um, I don't think so.
I know they have the Gusto guy, but he's definitely not the same level. And if Bastoni plays wingback, I think that could be a matchup to watch.
DeMarco is expected late March,
Okay,
so
so
he
right in
might be
time.
back. Yeah.
All right, so that one we have one where we disagree. And then Barca Dortmund.
Easy.
Barca, yeah, I think easy too.
You never know. Dortmund make that run last year. No, I'm kidding. Barca's taking care of business.
Yeah, they barely escaped Lille. And then, do you want to just touch on some games to watch this coming weekend? I'll touch on the Europa League games, but maybe you can touch on the weekend.
Sorry, and real quick for Barca, Because Kubarsi got the red first leg versus Benfica, straight red.
Hmm.
So he would be. Is he out for two more games, or is it Champions League? You just miss one game if you
I
get
think
straight.
it's a one.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, Europa League, we have some pretty big ties. So United tied Real Sociedad in the first leg, 1-1. Um, United honestly dominated that game, but Real Sociedad got a goal out of nowhere, kind of lucky, and then they kind of they had some chances towards the end of that game, but Tottenham, they lost 1-0 to Dutch team AZ Alkmaar. And then a surprising result for me was Rangers Fenerbahce. Rangers won 3-1 the first leg, and now they're home. And then lastly, Athletic Club, they lost 2-1 to Roma in the first leg. So we'll see if they can come back. And then I know the biggest one to watch is, of course, the Conference League. We have Chelsea, Copenhagen. We won 2-1 first leg. We honestly did not look great, so but we're home, so expecting us to get the dub.
Conference League also we need Real Betis to win. They tied their first leg 2-2
Oh,
um versus Vitória, some Portuguese team that I thought would be a comfortable breeze.
yeah. Don't know anything about that team. All right. And then over the weekend, I'll cover Premier League. I think the biggest one on Saturday to watch in terms of the top four, top five race is Man City Brighton. Man City's sitting at fifth place with 47. Brighton are in seventh with 46. So Brighton win their top five. We have Ipswich, Nottingham. Ipswich are about 6 point. Yeah, they're 6 points away from Wolves to get out of relegation. So every point matters for them. And then the late game that day will be Southampton, Brentford. Those guys are,
You mean Bournemouth, Brentford?
oh yeah, Bournemouth, Brentford. Bournemouth also trying to fight for that top five spot, at least get some type of European competition. And then Sunday, we have Arsenal, Chelsea in the morning. We have Fulham, Tottenham also in the morning, and then Manchester United versus Leicester.
I don't know why that window is so open, like 9:30 and then 3. It's so weird. Um, yeah, so those are the Premier League games. That Bournemouth Brentford, that'll be an interesting watch for if you really want to see a tactical battle, that's gonna be the game to watch. Two tacticians of managers. Around the league, uh, big one in Saturday, La Liga, Villarreal hosting Real Madrid. Um, AC Milan take on Como. And Sunday, uh, we got Fiorentina versus Juve in Serie A. We got Atalanta versus Inter Milan, in Serie A as well. We got Ligue 1, uh, that we've been big fans of. PSG versus Marseille, spicy. And then biggest game of that day will be Atletico Madrid versus Barcelona.
Ooh, yeah, I think if Atletico lose, it might be GG for them.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's the luxury now of them being eliminated from UCL is they can just solely focus on the La Liga.
That's true. And just looking forward to Real Madrid, I think their biggest game is gonna be May 11th. They play Barca once. So
They've been
they,
getting hammered by them.
yeah, it's a, it's a tight race still.
Um, so those are all the games. We'll recap. These are some massive games around the league. But also we'll recap the Premier League and MLS shouts out. We play Cincinnati, Charlotte versus Cincinnati. So,
And real quick, do you think I've been wanting to bring this up, but like, let us know if you think we should do a watch along for a game on the weekend,
oh
like a
yeah,
live watch
just
along.
suggest the game and we'll hop on.
Yeah, maybe I can see if we can record it and stuff and post it on Spotify, but we could record it live on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty neat. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll keep you guys posted. Let us know if there's any games you want us to cover and watch along. But until next time, peace out.
Peace.